Okay, right now we're just going to go through a quick tutorial on bringing in an AutoCAD file and creating points to be exported in the Magnet Office Topo software. When it comes up, your basic screen here prompts you to either open an existing file or create a new one. In this case, we're going to create a new project. The project settings, details, default units, control, you can change these around whatever you want them to be. Typically it's going to be US feet though. Hit finish. Now it's going to take you to an option to bring in data from other places. In this case we're going to import from an AutoCAD drawing, and you can see down here we've got it set for DWG DXF, and you can see there's quite a number of different options to bring that in. But in this case we're going to use a DWG file. Let me go locate that. Okay, and something we have to look at when we bring in this AutoCAD file, because of the way Magnet treats blocks, we want to make sure we explode any AutoCAD blocks as we bring it in. If you don't explode them as you import them, you won't be able to explode them later on, and you may not have access to the entities that you're trying to get to. So we're going to hit OK. We're going to leave all this turned off. It's going to create points anyway. So, and as you can see, it brought in our entire file. We've got everything in there that is in the drawing, and it's going to be shown here. Now we want to try to isolate some of our layers so that we can work with those layers and create points on those layers. You can see that one. If you just hover over this, it'll give you the full name for that layer. We want to isolate that layer so we can create some points on that. So we're going to go to View, Layers. We're going to find that layer. I believe it was that one. We're going to set that layer current, and then we want to freeze off everything else. We don't want to see anything but that layer, so we're going to select all and then hit off, and you'll see the only one that it'll leave on is our concrete pod B layer. So we hit OK, and that's going to freeze everything off. Also, these entities come in as a line weighted polyline from AutoCAD. Magnet will not recognize those intersections and points as line weighted polylines, so we want to explode those into regular lines or strings as Magnet treats them. So we're going to go to Modify, Explode. Once we've exploded those, now Magnet will be able to locate those and look at them. And as I said before, Magnet will create points from the entities automatically. So to see those, we can go to View and Point Number, and you can see some of the entities were created with points, and these points are assigned to the layer of the object, and that's how Magnet will bring in and out different points and listings and different items and import and export is going to be by layer. So you have to know what layer you're on and isolate that layer to be able to create point lists. In this case, you can see this section did not pick up any points. So now we want to insert points manually. So we go to Insert, Add a Point. We can select from our Snap Tools Intersection. If we hover over that intersection, we get the little red box. We can create a point there. And you can see the point number is based on the last point that was automatically created by the software. So now we're starting with point 2615. And we can continue around here, and it'll interpolate a height or prompt you for a height. If you need an elevation, you can put an elevation in there. If not, you can just continue to create the points. And it's going to prompt you for that. If both points have the same elevation, it's going to look for something else. So we can go ahead and create those points automatically by picking those intersections. Well, now that we've got our points, we've got points around our line work, we want to be able to export that out. But we want to know what it is and what we're working with. So in this case, I'm going to hit escape to get out of that command. We're going to go back up here to modify and renumber points, because I want to isolate these points to something that I've got that I can work with. I don't want start number at 2620. I want to start number about 5,000. Now I know all of my points for that foundation layer are in the 5,000 range. So I'm going to renumber those points, and you can see it tells us, it pulls up a little report that tells us this is the old number and this is the new number. In our case, we don't need to see the report, so we're just going to close that, and we're going to say no, and that's for the report, not for the drawing. Once we close that out, now we can see that we've renumbered our points. We have all of our points listed starting with a 5,000 point number. If we want to do any kind of coding for that, we at this point can go in, we can select from the active layer, we can go down here and tell it the code, and then we can tell it what code we want it to be, call it back a curb, and then we can apply that. I think we're going to have to highlight that. It creates a listing, we need to highlight it, tell it back a curb, and apply, and it should apply it to it. It's not recognizing the code I put in, so it's giving me a layer name entered contains invalid characters. Okay. I think that's related to, of course, this totally goes to hell. Okay, so what was going on was the layer name had a parentheses in it, which the software didn't recognize. So the edit points feature, we go back, we can select all of our points, we highlight those points, hit code, we can then change the code to whatever we want it to be, and it'll apply that to all of these points. And you can see we changed the code on those. So now we can isolate what it is based on what we want to see for that particular code. So now that we've created points for these foundation lines, we want to export that out into an ASCII file or a CSV file that we can use in the data collector. And to do that, we have to work with the particular layers that we want to export. So in this case, we've got all of this highlighted or frozen. Everything's frozen off except for this layer, and that's what we want to work with when we go to the export function. So we're going to go to export. We're going to give it a name, whatever we want it to be. We're going to tell it what type of file we want. In this case, we're going to do an ASCII file, and we're going to do a .txt type file. That way we can bring that straight into our data collector. We're going to hit save at this point, and you can see it's going to give us all points because we did not pre-select any of our items. It's going to select from all points. If you use this, now you're going to get every point that's in the drawing, not necessarily the ones you want, which is not what we want to use. We only want to use these. So we're going to highlight this section. It's going to select only the points we want to export, and you can see the difference with this test.txt. Save. Now you can see we've got a different option. Now we have a current selection option. We're going to use a comma delimiter, and this is our point format: point, northing, easting, zenith, and description to 3 decimal places. We hit OK, so now it's created our file. So now we have a point file that we can immediately bring into our data collector, regardless of what type of data collector it is. An ASCII point file is going to be formatted such that you can bring that into virtually any data collector software package. And then at this point, you can bring in whatever other information, DXFs, DWGs, into your field work. But you'll have to create a text file or an ASCII file of the points for each layer type that you want to use. If you want to change to a different layer, you can turn those layers on and then select those and create a point database based on the layers you want to see. So Okay, one additional thing to look at as well, if we go back to our pad elevation, we can freeze off all of those other layers, and another way to create the points is going to be to select all of your items, modify, create points, and it's going to create points on every entity. You can see there was other nodes that we didn't pick up originally, and you can tell it to create points there as well. And you can see it'll go back to the original point system that it started with. Now we can recreate those, renumber those points again, starting at 5,000. Renumber our points. Point report we don't need. But that'll allow you to create points with all of your entities all at once, and not just individual points that you may want to add specifically. If you need points for every node, that'll give you that ability as well.